My name is Levi Fuller. I am the Operations Supervisor and Chief Plant Operator with Dublin San Ramon Services District. And I'm also an instructor in the BACWI program, which is the Bay Area Consortium for Water and Wastewater Education. I supervise a staff of 11 operators who are responsible for operating a 17 million gallon per day wastewater treatment plant, a 12 million gallon per day recycled water treatment plant, as well as a 41.2 MGD effluent pumping station. I grew up in Alabama, graduated, took some basic math and science courses in high school. When I graduated from high school, I couldn't afford to go to college, which was my ambition. So I decided to join the military, went into the United States Navy, spent 6 years in the Navy, about 4.5 years on an aircraft carrier, the USS Nimitz, where amongst my duties was to operate the desalination facilities that converted seawater into potable water for the ship. So that's how I got my inroads into getting into the water and wastewater field. After the military, I got a job working for a company that did groundwater cleanup. Back in the 80s and 90s, there was a lot of contaminated groundwater due to gasoline tanks leaking. So I worked for a company that did bioremediation of that kind of work. And one of the engineers that we had sent me to a wastewater treatment plant to get samples of mixed liquor, which is samples of microorganisms, because he wanted to use the microorganisms to see if he could grow specific microorganisms that would remove specific contaminants, in this particular case phenols, from waste streams. So that's how I got introduced into the ideal of working at a wastewater treatment plant. And so from there, I got a job as an operator in training at the city of Pinole. 5 years later, I was the operations supervisor there. I initially did my training by using the Cal State Home Study program that operators commonly refer to as the Can Carry course. And then after I was an operator 2, I decided I wanted to advance further, so I started to take classes in the evening at Solano College. Got an associate's in science in Solano College. Again, became the operations supervisor at the city of Pinole, and after having been there for 9 years, I was hired as the operations supervisor at Dublin San Ramon Services District. And I've been there in that position now for 16 years. And for about the last 7 years, I've kind of come full circle because now I'm an instructor in the BACWI program that is sponsored by Solano College. So I'm now an instructor in the program and also an alumni of the program. I liked some of the more challenging things that I've dealt with in my career. Is right after I got to Dublin San Ramon, we did a major overhaul of the treatment plant. And some people would term it, doing an overhaul or an expansion to a wastewater treatment plant would be similar to trying to overhaul the engine in your car while you're driving it down the road. So it's a challenge to keep the plant running while you're taking intermittently different parts of the plant out of service. And so it was a challenge. It was a expansion and construction project that went on for about 3 years. A lot of people were involved. A lot of people worked a lot of hours. As I remember, in the first 3 years doing that expansion project, I slept on the floor of my office probably about 52 times. Just had to be there in order to keep the treatment plant operating and going while we were going through that expansion. So that was one of the more challenging things that I dealt with. And then also, our treatment plant at Dublin San Ramon was kind of out in the front of the moving towards recycling of wastewater. So we've done a major expansion of our recycled water facilities. Right now, on an average summer day, we are recycling about 50% of the wastewater that's coming into the treatment plant. and I can see the day within probably a horizon of 5 to 7 years where we will probably be recycling about 100% of the wastewater coming into our treatment plant.
So, what would you say are the qualities and capabilities that someone needs in order for a person in your area of expertise to be successful in the water wastewater industry?
I would say one of the things you want to do is you want to have a good background in math and science, because a lot of the things that you have to do, a lot of the calculations that are involved in operating a treatment facility involve science and math, so you want to have a good foundation in that. A little bit of mechanical aptitude, it would be good. You have to have good people skills like you would in any job, because you work with people off shift, weekends, rotating shifts and things of that nature. So having good people skills. And then operating a treatment plant is, I always term it, it's similar to being almost like a doctor, because even though you have textbooks that tell you, give you some general rules about how wastewater treatment plants operate, every wastewater treatment plant has its own peculiarities, its own uniqueness, and you have to figure out where the textbook applies and where the textbook does not necessarily apply to the particular plant that you operate. So it's a science, but at the same time it's an art form, and you need to have some curiosity and a little bit of investigative skills in order to figure out how to make the particular treatment plant where you work operate at its best. Well, one of the things that's interesting about the job is that it's interesting. And that a treatment plant is a biological system. And so you always have to respond to different things that happen in the treatment plant. You don't have very much control over what comes into the treatment plant, and the biology in the treatment plant has to respond to that. And it's your job as an operator to look at that biology, to figure out what that biology is telling you, and on a day in and day out basis, figure out what changes, what adjustments you have to make within the treatment plant so that the biology does the best job that it can in order to treat the wastewater. So it's not the same day in and day out ho-hum thing every day. You're always looking at things that are new. You're always looking at things that you haven't seen before. And then you see some things that you haven't seen in 15 years, or you talk to an operator who's been around for 30 years and they remember seeing something 25 years ago. And so it's a combination of science, it's a combination of, I guess you would call it operator history about the facility, and learning new things day in and day out. And it's a combination of all those things that makes the job interesting, and all of those things are necessary in order to make the treatment plant operate at its best.